Hey, what's up YouTube? Benaris here with another StarCraft 2 broadcast. Today we're going to be taking an analytical look at a 3 versus 3 from the North American server that HuskyStarCraft and I played in. Our random teammate is Dogbox, which the name still cracks me up. I just imagine like one of those really poor quality cardboard boxes with like a big hole cut out in the front for the head to pop out for this tiny little dog, and it's got the little handle and everything. Yeah, that's what I see this guy as. I can't even explain it. But we have Huskies spawning over here with the awesome panda logo on his Nexus. Finally rounding it out, we have the Horde logo on my Nexus. Moving on to more important things here. The first teammate we're going to look at for the opposing team is X, who dropped his depot at 9 supply. Very interesting choice. We'll keep an eye on him. Of course, we do have Cadence spawning as the purple Protoss and Imba, the green Protoss. So we have more or less a mirror matchup, actually. PPT versus PPT. And X going for an early geyser. Now, given the timings of these buildings, it's clear that he has some type of tech play in mind. One thing to keep in mind, if you decide to try to mimic this build, is you need to make sure you have the right amount of workers at the appropriate time. So I'll kind of let you guys focus on this for a little bit, and I think this will take up a little bit less space in the long term. But I'm actually going to be trying to keep these windows as closed as frequently as possible, so that way you guys can see, you know, basically as much as possible on the screen. Because yeah, 3v3, 4v4 does take up a lot of room. So moving over to the production tab, you can kind of keep an eye on everything, what everybody's doing right now. We see that X, he's pretty much the guy to keep an eye on early on here, as he is going for some type of crazy play. Imba, he's opening up very standard-like, so am I, and of course HuskyStarCraft as well. Finally, Dogbox over here. He's going for some early gas, but notice how he's working on 2 barracks. So with this probe coming over and scouting, he saw that second barracks. He wanted to know the gas. Is there one? Is there not one? And that would be kind of the telltale sign if this Terran was going to be going for 2 racks pressure, maybe going for some type of early Reaper play, maybe some Marauders. Marauders would have a very important role to play in this matchup, because again, with 2 Protoss on each side, Stalkers are going to be, you know, just all over the place. So we do, of course, have myself continuing to build up over here. HuskyStarCraft, same thing, working on that cybernetics core. Of course, mine warping in a second or 2 before his, but really just a negligible difference there. And Dogbox working on a tech lab for his barracks here. So getting a Reaper out, looks like he's going to be trying to apply some early pressure. Now, actually, let's talk about Reapers on this map for a moment. Personally, I do not feel that they are that strong on this map when assaulting bases. Yes, there's a lot of cliffs here that can be abused, and that's good, but if we just pause for a moment and take a brief look at what we can expect to see. Now, the Reaper is going to have to come in through this way right here. This is not negotiable. I mean, if he comes in through here, you know, by the time he gets to the mineral line, it's gonna be, you know, like, oh, hey, look, there's Reapers on my base. Got plenty of time to deal with that. But you'll see there's a Stalker coming out, rally directly towards this area. The problem with Reapers is that once you get in here, in order to do any damage, you have to commit wholly to it. There is no escape route. Once you get past, like, this point right here, this is the dead zone. Actually, this is the dead zone right here, because once you're in this point, you are committed to being in this base. You see, there is no way out until you finally wrap around here. And of course, if a Stalker comes over here, you only have one way to go, and that is to stay in the base. So this is something to keep in mind moving forward for those of you wanting to do Reaper harass, and we're actually going to see Imba again anticipate this by keeping the Stalker right here rallied towards that correct position. So now that that's there, we can see that I do, of course, have that one Stalker right here, and Huskies is dropping down the robotics facility. He is going to be going for some type of 3-gate robo. When I came into this game, I wanted to do a spoiler, I wanted to do a 4-gate, but wait, I wanted afterwards to do an X-gate expand, 1, 2, 3-gate, kind of depending on what they scouted. Now, as far as our vision is concerned, we have seen that the Terran is going for some type of either 111 or Cloaked Banshees, like you mentioned before. We look at the money, and we could see that he does have enough minerals for that cloak, but you'll notice that he's throwing down a tech lab and working on getting some Marines out instead. So he's not really committing too much to this attack. We can look at the income tab. Excuse me, got the hiccups today. And see the worker count, 26, 27. So we're still roughly in the same area. Of course, the Protoss has naturally a little bit more because, you know, Protoss, they're awesome like that. So we do have the Reapers coming up here, and this is exactly what I was talking about. But a very quick response from Dogbox allowed him to keep all 3 of these Reapers alive and well. Now, of course, there is a probe from Cadence keeping an eye on this base, and since we discovered that there was a starport over in the Terran base, I did throw down a forge and a cannon. So starting to get my warp gate technology at around 625. That's pretty much what I would expect to have. I didn't chrono it out. I actually chronoed my gateways a little bit there because, like I said, I wanted to have a strong early presence. So if I decide to go for like a 1-gate expand, or really anything, any X-gate expand, I will generally chrono my gateways so that way I can have a large enough force to deal with any sort of potential rush / guard. Now, I did see this observer. I actually saw it right about right here or so, and so I'm like, oh, he's going to be at a collision path with my cannon. Well, if he gets to the cannon and he spots it, I'm going to have like a half a second before he has a chance to turn around. So I moved my forces in position, got them all within firing range, and as soon as that cannon detected it, bam. So that's a pretty good way to handle observers that are coming into your base there. Again, 1 cannon's really all we needed for this. I wasn't anticipating too much in the way of Banshee harass. I mean, again, at this level of play, if somebody commits to making a whole bunch of Banshees, they're going to be hurting themselves in the long term, and really it's not going to make that much of a difference because Husky does have observers here. You can see one right now, and I think he also has another one heading out across the map as we speak. So this Banshee is going to be coming back to base. We do have Cadence with the with the pylon over here as well. This will be able to provide quick reinforcement support to this part of the map, and I think that's kind of why he did that. Basically, to reveal the area, as well as we need to keep an eye on these Reapers still. Now, notice here I have dropped my expansion, and that's about 60% complete. Those Reapers now once again coming over towards this area, but you see how the Terran player, again, X-Practice X, he has kind of anticipated this assault and will be moving into position very quickly to knock out all 3 of those Reapers. Boom, there we go. Now look at this. Husky Starcraft's observer has noticed that these forces are moving out, so if we pay attention to the army tab right now, and we can see, okay, I think this is pretty much, yeah, this is us right here. See, we're in the 50s, low 60s. They're roughly the same, but they have the tech advantage. They have those siege tanks. They also have the Raven, good for a PDD, which, you know, again, is one of those really, really smart things to get when you're dealing with 2 Protoss. Also, the Immortals as well, very good at killing Stalkers. So looking ahead here at the Terran player and our team, we see he is actually be losing 1 Marauder and a Marine right there. A few other ones as he stems and tries to go forward. Not a very good move. Now, before this battle engages, I want to point out a couple things. Number one, how we did try, you see how my forces actually kind of hung back here for a little bit? That's because I wanted the Protoss to come here and basically be kind of sandwiched in this area, because you see how there's rocks right here, there's gas right here, there's a whole bunch of terrain features right here / structures that I can use, and the siege tanks, look at the range. See this? How we're just barely out of range and where we're engaging? This is kind of the plan for this engagement, so we want to kind of hang out right here and basically do as much as possible. So we force fielded them, basically want them to come back, and you'll notice another thing is how I started mining over here. Like, I had a couple probes right here, and I kept mining by shifting them over, and finally I had to retreat when they claimed the entire area. But now we have lost all 3 expansions. Well, 2.5 right there. That command center was going down to float probably somewhere else. But this is going to put us at a pretty big disadvantage in terms of economy. So you see how we started working on getting our probes up in order to saturate those natural expansions. Of course, I did have to bring some of mine back there, and my couple gateways, of course, coming in. I planned to transition into, I think I was going for Robo with a couple Immortals, but also going for some High Templar once I claimed a 3rd base as well. Because, again, I kind of knew there was a heavy emphasis on Stalkers, and Husky was going to be going for Colossi, so I didn't want to kind of overlap that. So the Protoss right now, you see how he kind of popped over here. This kind of clued me in a little bit. Hey, you know, maybe he's trying to do some type of blink thing, but I think he knows that I'm going to be kind of in this area. So eventually I moved my forces up here because I'm a little worried they're going to be moving towards our ramp, and we definitely do not want them to get a foothold. But speaking of footholds, this at this point in the game, this is actually very dangerous for us because you see how they have an expansion. They expanded off of that attack. We also have Imba over here dropping his own. And I don't, yeah, I think I was about to say Practice didn't have one yet, but he does have a command center. And he's also working on a second starport now, getting a tech lab on it. So he's going to be continuing on with this Banshee play into Marauder tech, which could actually work out pretty well. But I want to point out something here. Look at Cadence. You see how he has this expansion starting to get saturated, pretty good there. But notice his infrastructure hasn't changed. Now, when I was building up my forces, you'll notice how I had my Nexus down here, and by the time my Nexus finished, I already had 6 gateways. Well, at least 2 of them warping in, 4 already complete. So I was trying to transitioning into having the ability to produce off of those gateways, but of course you could see now here, my money, I'm still keeping it pretty low. Of course, with 6 gateways here, that's not difficult to do. I'm also trying to keep the upgrades going as well. So you'll see in the moments ahead, 1-1 on this. Imba has 0-1, Practice 0-0, Cadence 0. And of course, I don't think Husky has a forge up here. Yeah, Husky, he's dumping all of his gas into trying to get in Colossi range and Colossi in general. Whereas our Terran player over here, he has decided to go for a drop over here in the main, like so. Now we have the Stalkers moving in, trying to basically just test out testing out Husky, seeing what they can do. Really, yeah, this is the point where I decide to move up because I'm like, oh, well, you know what? Maybe they're going to be trying to come in trying to come in again. But we're going to have 2 things occur here at the same time. Notice how first these Stalkers are moving in, and also at the same time, Dogbox is looking to attack the player who is these Stalkers. So this is a great timing for this attack to come, actually, because at this point, Imba will be so focused on engaging down here that he really won't have that many forces, that much kind of attentiveness to dedicate to this attack. So we do have the Blink coming up here, knocking at the pylon. Could have actually knocked this Twilight Council out. That would have hurt me a lot. But at the same time, this drop coming in as well, focusing down the Nexus, very good idea. Of course, a couple Stalkers warping in as well. These forces not really doing anything at all. And okay, now next thing I want to point out here, the force fields. The reason I dropped these force fields here were because I was trying to limit Imba's ability to move close to the ledge and blink out. Basically what people do is when they try to go and blink out with a whole bunch of Stalkers, they will shift click in order to go like right here, and then they'll hold shift and blink and then click another place down here. And what that does is that tells the Stalkers to go here and then execute a blink once you've reached this position. This is more or less a way of guaranteeing that your units won't all, if you just do a blink command, just bam, right there, one to the other, you're going to have a bunch of Stalkers left over. So the reason these force fields were placed here is because I wanted to try to keep him from ever reaching that first point where he wants to get to that spot. And that way, I can kill the Stalkers while he's running around. And if he does a panic blink, which is just where he's like, screw it, blink away as many as I can, then I will get some free kills. So look right here and see how he did that. He lost a couple Stalkers there, and he does unfortunately get most of those away, but still he lost quite a few during that attack. And at the same time, you'll notice how his waves of warp-ins were being taken up over here. So look at the worker count now. You can see he's got 16 probes compared to everybody else who's in the mid-30s, low 40s. And of course, Dogbox now finally able to get away. So the biggest thing about that attack was just the timing of it. The fact that he was able to come in at the exact same moment that Imba attacked me. He lost a lot of Stalkers, he lost warp-in cooldowns trying to defend it, and he was, most importantly, lost the Nexus. So fortunately for Imba, he still does have this area over here. But as far as income is concerned, these guys are pretty much screwed. So they do have the expansions. That's something they have going for them. Also, Practice X taking this one over here. Now, you see, we have combined our forces into one giant mega ball. At this stage, we're just like, you know what? I've got my charge done. I'm 2-1, and we're going to go ahead and engage it. Now, before we engage this, I want to notice the PDDs are down. And looking at the tanks right now, you can kind of get an idea of where they're at. Again, they're just out of firing range of most of the forces here. So this is going to work in our favor, especially in this area over here. See how it kind of wraps around there? So we had an idea where the tanks were at, and we figured having such a heavy Stalker presence would work out well. The Zealots kind of get cluttered up in there. That was a mistake on my end. I should have actually had those run ahead. But now our Terran player has reinforced with us. He was kind of hurting there in the mid-game for a while when we had those expansions because, again, kind of lost some of those forces there. But we were able to actually come out and push ahead, despite the fact that these guys had their expansions. Now, notice, see how it's clear that we're in the lead now. Very clear. I want to point out something about Cadence. You notice how earlier I mentioned his structures? Look at them now. Despite the fact that he has had such a long time to build up, he's still running on 3 gateways. He has a second robotics facility, but he has all this money piled up. And I think myself, one base, I have a little bit of money. Again, the reason I had this money floating around is because I knew I was running low and I wanted to be able to still drop a Nexus down here. But likewise, X Practice X, you see how he also really hasn't built up too much in terms of his economy, his infrastructure. And finally, Imba, he really didn't have a choice. I mean, he's running 1 mineral, 0 gas. He obviously, well, that's just because he left and the rest of his stuff was diverted. But we can actually, tell you what, we will go back just a tiny bit to before he left, and let's see what his money was like before he lost that there. So, okay, there we go. 410, 812. As we see that attack now taking place here, he has left. All his stuff is now dispensed. And as far as income is concerned now, I mean, you could see they still have that advantage, but we were able to make that really strong push as a direct result of the biggest issue for them was they did not upgrade their infrastructure to support their new income. Number 2, we had superior upgrades. I had 2-1. I have 2-2, I think, finishing up here. Yeah, my second armor upgrade is just about complete. So I was able to absorb a lot of damage. But you see, these guys, they didn't have upgrades hardly at all. I think one Protoss had 1. Yeah, Imba had 1 weapons upgrade. And, I mean, really, Cadence with Colossi didn't have any. So that's where they failed. And, I mean, again, you know, they played a good game. I'm not saying, oh, God, they suck. But, you know, the purpose of this video is to analyze where these, you know, where players go wrong, where they went right, and that's where you have it, folks. So that's how we were able to win this matchup. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you kind of learned something from this, as I tried to point out as much as possible without pausing too much throughout the game. But if you did enjoy it, please be sure to go to my channel and check out the other analysis videos. Make sure you've seen those as well, because I feel like they kind of cover a lot of different points, some of which I have trying to build on a greater series, like, so I don't say the same things every video. I'm going to try to organize it a little bit more. Once this kind of takes off, I want to try to have like viewer submissions where I can focus on like a particular topic. And again, I'm not trying to copy Day9 about this, but I think that there's kind of a gap. A lot of players like team games. They don't like to do 1v1s, but since they don't like to do 1v1s, they don't pick up good gaming habits, good StarCrafting habits, and as such, the team games are generally lower quality. And so I'd like to kind of close that gap, help people enjoy team games by playing better at it, understanding more about the dynamics and the maps in general, and what to do, what not to do, and more wins for everyone. So that's it for this video. I will see you in the next one.